Before we head into the Great Smoky Mountains where something ancient is hunting, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and if you've ever heard unexplained sounds in the woods at night. Hit that like button if forest horror terrifies you. Subscribe for more real military encounters with things that shouldn't exist. Now, let's go into the Appalachian wilderness. My name is Staff Sergeant David Chen, United States Army Rangers, 75th Ranger Regiment. What I'm about to tell you violates every security clearance I hold and probably breaks a dozen federal laws. But 9 men died in the Great Smoky Mountains in September 2021, and the official story, training accident, bear attack, tragic loss, is a complete lie. The truth is that we were hunted. Stalked through the Appalachian forest by something that uses a woman's voice to lure victims. Something that transforms humans into monsters. Something that the Cherokee people have known about for centuries but we ignored. And 9 Rangers paid the price for our arrogance. It started as a routine training exercise. September 2021, Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Tennessee. 12 Rangers deployed for a 7-day survival and evasion course. The mission was simple. Navigate 60 miles of wilderness terrain, establish temporary camps, practice survival skills, and make it to the extraction point without being captured by the opposing force. Standard training. We'd all done it a dozen times before. Our team consisted of Lieutenant Marcus Blake, our commanding officer, Staff Sergeant David Chen, me, as second in command, and 10 Rangers, Martinez, Thompson, Williams, Jackson, Rodriguez, Kowalski, Patterson, Morrison, Sullivan, and Hayes. 12 experienced soldiers, all Ranger qualified, all combat veterans. We'd served in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. We knew how to survive in hostile territory, but none of us had trained for what was waiting in those mountains. We inserted via helicopter on September 12th, landing at a clearing about 15 miles from the nearest road. The Smokies in early fall are beautiful. Dense forest, rolling mountains, streams and valleys, wildlife everywhere. The kind of place that looks peaceful and safe. The kind of place where people disappear. As we were organizing our gear, a local woman approached our landing zone. She was maybe 60 years old, weathered face, dressed in hiking gear but with traditional Cherokee patterns on her jacket. She'd been waiting for us. "You're the Army boys doing training in the deep woods," she said. It wasn't a question. Lieutenant Blake stepped forward. "Ma'am, this is a restricted military exercise. You need to leave the area." "I'm Mary Littlefeather," she said, ignoring his authority completely. "My people have lived in these mountains for 10,000 years. I'm here to give you a warning. We appreciate your concern, ma'am, but we're trained professionals. We'll be fine." Mary's expression didn't change. "You don't understand. The deep woods, the places you're going, they're not safe at night, especially not now. Ma'am, we're aware of the wildlife. We know about bears, mountain lions. I'm not talking about bears." She pulled out a small leather pouch from her jacket. "I'm talking about the whistling women, the Wampus Cats. They hunt these mountains every 20 years, and this is the 20th year." I saw a few of the Rangers exchange glances, trying not to laugh. Local superstition, folklore, the kind of thing civilians believed but soldiers knew better. Mary saw it too. You think it's a myth, a story. That's what the last group thought. Hikers. Back in 2001, 12 of them went into the deep woods during the hunting season. Only 3 came out. And those 3, she shook her head. They were never the same, couldn't speak, couldn't sleep, just sat and rocked and hummed that whistling sound. "What whistling sound?" Williams asked. "The sound the Wampus Cats make. Like a woman calling. Sweet and lonely, it sounds human. That's how they hunt. They mimic human voices, human sounds. They call to you from the darkness, and if you answer, if you go to them, they take you. Take you where? Blake asked, his patience clearly wearing thin. Into their pack. They transform you, turn you into one of them. Half human, half beast. You become a whistler, too, and then you hunt your own kind. Blake had heard enough. Thank you for the warning, ma'am. We'll be careful. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have a training exercise to begin. Mary opened the leather pouch and pulled out several small carved stones, each one marked with symbols I didn't recognize. Take these, Cherokee protection charms. If you hear whistling at night, don't answer. Don't investigate. Put one of these stones in your mouth and stay silent. It blocks their call. We don't need... Blake started. I stepped forward and took the stones. Thank you, ma'am. We'll keep them safe. Mary looked at me with sad, knowing eyes. Keep them in your mouth when you hear the whistling. And remember, they only hunt at night. If you survive until dawn, you survive. Daylight makes them retreat. But night, she looked at the forest around us. Night is their time. Then she left, walking back into the forest without another word. Blake watched her go, shaking his head. Superstitious bullshit, Wampus Cats, whistling women. These mountains are full of stories like that. Keeps the tourists entertained. Sir, maybe we should take it seriously, I suggested. The Cherokee have lived here for 10,000 years. Yes, she mentioned that. Chen, I respect indigenous knowledge, but we're not canceling a training exercise because a local tells us ghost stories. We follow the mission plan. Clear? Clear, sir. But I kept the protection stones in my pocket. We moved into the forest, heading northwest toward our first waypoint. The plan was to cover about 10 miles the first day, establish camp, then continue the next morning. Standard land navigation, survival skills, teamwork under stress. The forest was dense. Old-growth trees, thick underbrush. The kind of terrain where you could be 10 feet from someone and not see them. Our point man, Rodriguez, led the way while Martinez walked rear security. The rest of us moved in a tactical column, maintaining spacing and awareness. By 1600 hours, we'd covered 8 miles. Blake called a halt at a small clearing near a stream. Good defensive position, access to water, relatively flat ground for setting up camp. We make camp here, Blake announced. Standard perimeter security. Thompson and Williams, you're on first watch. 1800 to 2100. Martinez and Jackson, 2100 to midnight. Chen and Morrison, midnight to 0300. Sullivan and Hayes, 0300 to 0600. Everyone else gets rest. We move out at first light. We established camp using tactical procedures. Minimal light, no fires, cold rations, weapons within reach at all times. This was training, but we treated it like combat deployment. Good habits in training save lives in combat. As the sun set and darkness fell over the forest, the sounds changed. Daytime birds went quiet. Crickets and night insects started their chorus. In the distance, an owl hooted. Normal forest sounds. Then, around 2100 hours, we heard something else. Whistling, high-pitched, melodic, like someone whistling a tune, almost beautiful. And it sounded like a woman. The sound came from the forest to our east, maybe 200 meters out, just beyond the edge of our perimeter. Martinez, who was on watch with Jackson, called out quietly, "Sir, we've got something. Human-sounding. Could be hikers." Blake grabbed his night vision and scanned the tree line. "I don't see anyone. Could be wind through the trees." But the whistling continued, a simple melody repeating, and it did sound human, feminine, almost like someone calling out trying to signal for help. "Should we investigate?" Jackson asked. "Negative," Blake said. "We maintain perimeter. If there are hikers out there, they'll find their way. We don't break formation for— Wait, Martinez interrupted. Did you hear that? It's saying something. The whistling, it's forming words. We all went silent, listening, and Martinez was right. The whistling was modulating, creating patterns that almost sounded like speech, like someone trying to communicate without opening their mouth. Help, lost, please. The words were barely discernible, more feeling than actual sound. But the message was clear. Someone out there needed help. That's a person, Williams said. Someone's lost in the woods. We need to go get them. Or it's exactly what that Cherokee woman warned us about, I said, pulling out one of Mary's protection stones. A lure. A trap. Blake looked torn. Military training said you help people in distress. But something about that whistling felt wrong, too perfect, too targeted. Martinez, Jackson, you stay on perimeter, Blake decided. Williams and Rodriguez, you're with me. We investigate, but we stay tactical. Weapons ready. We find whoever's making that sound, we assess, we return. Chen, you're in command while I'm gone. Sir, I really think— That's an order, Chen. We don't leave civilians in distress, even if they're stupid enough to be hiking after dark. Blake, Williams, and Rodriguez grabbed their gear and moved into the forest toward the whistling. I watched them disappear into the darkness, their night vision goggles casting faint green glow. The whistling continued, still melodic, still calling. Help, lost, please. Martinez was staring into the forest, completely focused on the sound. It's beautiful, he whispered. That whistling. It's the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. Martinez, snap out of it, Jackson said. But Martinez wasn't listening. He took a step toward the perimeter edge. Then another. Martinez, hold position, I ordered. He didn't respond. His eyes were glazed, unfocused, like he was sleepwalking. He took another step into the forest. Jackson grabbed his arm. Martinez, stop! Martinez turned to Jackson with a blank expression. Then, without warning, he shoved Jackson hard enough to knock him down. Before any of us could react, Martinez ran into the forest, full sprint, chasing the whistling sound. Martinez, I yelled, get back here! But he was gone, disappeared into the darkness like he'd never existed. Shit, Thompson muttered. Should we go after him? I grabbed my radio. Blake, this is Chen. Martinez just bolted into the forest, headed east toward the whistling sound. He's in some kind of trance. Repeat, Martinez is compromised. Static. Then Blake's voice tense. Copy that. We're trying to find the source now. The whistling it's everywhere. Can't pinpoint location. It's like it's coming from multiple directions. Sir, recommend you return to perimeter. This is exactly what the warning— A scream cut through the radio. Human, male, terrified, then gunfire. 3 shots, then silence. Blake, report! I yelled into the radio. Blake, what's happening? Static. Williams, Rodriguez, anyone, respond. Nothing. The whistling stopped. Complete silence in the forest. No insects, no owls, nothing. Just dead, absolute quiet. Then, 30 seconds later, the whistling started again. But this time it was different. Deeper. Multiple voices, harmonizing, creating a sound that bypassed my ears and resonated directly in my skull. And it was getting closer. Defensive positions, I ordered. Everyone on perimeter, weapons hot. Whatever's out there, it's coming to us. The remaining rangers formed a circle, facing outward, scanning the darkness with night vision and weapon lights. 7 of us left. Martinez had run into the forest. Blake, Williams, and Rodriguez had gone silent. The whistling grew louder. I could see movement in the trees now, multiple shapes, moving fast, too fast for humans. Contact, Kowalski yelled. "East side, 50 meters, multiple targets." I brought up my rifle and activated my weapon light. The beam cut through the darkness and caught a woman standing at the tree line, naked, covered in mud and leaves, smiling, except it wasn't a woman. The body was female, the proportions were human, but the face was wrong. The jaw was too long. The teeth were sharp. The eyes reflected our lights like an animal's eyes. And she was whistling, that same beautiful, haunting melody. "Open fire!" I yelled. 7 rifles discharged simultaneously. The woman thing jerked as bullets hit her, but she didn't fall. Didn't even slow down. She just kept walking toward us, whistling, smiling with those sharp teeth. Then she dropped to all fours and charged, not running like a human, running like a cat, like a mountain lion. Her limbs bent at wrong angles, her spine arched, and she covered 50 meters in maybe 3 seconds. She hit Patterson first. Claws, I don't know where they came from, but suddenly she had claws, raked across his chest, and he went down screaming. She was on him in an instant, that too long jaw opening impossibly wide. Hayes fired point blank into her head. The bullet went clean through, exit wound spraying. She should have been dead. She turned and hissed at Hayes, then lunged. I don't remember making the decision. Training took over. I emptied my magazine into her center mass. So did Thompson. So did Sullivan. The woman thing's body was torn apart by automatic weapons fire at close range. She finally collapsed, twitching, bleeding black blood that looked wrong in our weapon lights. Patterson was on the ground, clutching his torn chest. Oh God, she got me, she... More whistling. From every direction. We were surrounded. They emerged from the forest. 6 of them, all female in form, all moving on 2 legs but clearly capable of dropping to all 4s. All showing that same wrong face, human but predatory, beautiful but monstrous. And leading them was Martinez, except Martinez was changing. His face was elongating, his jaw was stretching, his hands were developing claws. He moved in that same cat-like way, and when he opened his mouth, the sound that came out was whistling. He'd been gone maybe 10 minutes, and they'd already started transforming him. "Fall back," I screamed. "To the stream! Form defensive line!" We grabbed Patterson and ran. Behind us, the whistling women, the Wampus Cats, gave chase. I could hear them moving through the forest, not crashing through underbrush like humans, gliding, silent except for that constant whistling. We made it to the stream and formed a line, 6 rangers, 1 wounded, facing 7 transformed creatures. The things that had been Martinez stalked closer, moving in a pack. Coordinated, intelligent. This wasn't animal behavior, this was tactical. "Chen!" Patterson gasped. He was bleeding badly. "Chen, you gotta shoot me. Before I become like them, promise me." "You're not infected," I said. "You're going to be fine. We just need to..." Patterson's eyes rolled back. His body started convulsing, and his jaw was beginning to elongate. The claws, they'd been infected with something. A biological agent, a transformative pathogen. Whatever these Wampus Cats were, they could spread it through their attacks. Patterson started whistling. That same haunting melody. Hayes didn't hesitate. He put a bullet in Patterson's head. Mercy kill. Better than becoming a monster. "They transform their victims," Morrison said, his voice shaking. "The woman was right. They turn you into one of them." The Martinez thing and the 6 whistling women had us surrounded. They were circling, testing our defenses, waiting for an opening. And somewhere in the forest behind them, I heard more whistling. Blake's voice. Williams's voice, Rodriguez's voice. All three of them transformed, joining the hunt. 12 rangers had entered the Great Smoky Mountains. After one night, only 6 of us were still human, and the sun wouldn't rise for another 8 hours. 6 rangers. 11 Wampus Cats circling us in the darkness. And 8 hours until sunrise. The transformed Martinez thing was pacing at the edge of our weapon lights, moving on all fours like the apex predator he was becoming. His face was almost unrecognizable now, jaw elongated into a muzzle filled with sharp teeth, eyes reflecting green in our night vision, body contorted into something between human and beast. But the worst part was that he was still wearing his uniform, still had his dog tags, still had Martinez's face underneath the transformation. Enough humanity left that we recognized him, not enough that he recognized us. "Jen, what do we do?" Morrison asked, his voice cracking. "We can't fight all of them. We don't have enough ammunition." I did a quick count. Each of us had maybe 3 magazines left. 30 rounds per magazine. 6 rangers times 90 rounds equals 540 bullets. Against 11 creatures that had already proven bullets didn't stop them easily. The math wasn't in our favor. We run, I decided. We break through their line. We run east. We don't stop until we find defensible position or until dawn. Everybody check your compass. East is 090 degrees. We move together. Nobody gets left behind. Clear? Clear, they responded in unison. On my mark, 3, 2, 1, go. We opened fire in a concentrated burst at the thinnest part of their circle. 2 whistling women standing about 15 feet apart. Our combined firepower tore into them, and they went down shrieking. Not dead, but wounded enough to create a gap. We ran through the opening and into the forest. Behind us, the pack gave chase. I could hear them moving through the underbrush, not crashing through like humans, flowing, gliding. Their bodies adapted to forest movement in ways ours weren't, and they were whistling, all of them, creating a harmonious chorus that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The sound bypassed rational thought and triggered something primal, the urge to stop running, to turn around, to join them. "Don't listen to the whistling," I yelled. "Focus on your compass. Keep moving east." Thompson stumbled over a root and went down hard. Sullivan pulled him up without breaking stride. We were moving fast, but the whistlers were faster. "Contact rear!" Kowalski shouted. "They're gaining!" I looked back. In the green glow of our night vision, I could see them. The Martinez creature was in the lead, moving with inhuman speed and agility. The other transformed rangers, Blake, Williams, Rodriguez, were right behind him, and the original whistling women flanked them, coordinating like a wolf pack. "Climb!" Hayes yelled, spotting a massive oak tree. "Get to the trees! They can't climb!" We scrambled up the oak, using lower branches for handholds. 6 rangers climbing as fast as we could, trying to get out of reach. I was about 15 feet up when I heard Hayes scream. One of the whistling women had jumped, not climbed. Jumped. She'd launched herself from the ground and caught Hayes's ankle, dragging him back down. "Hayes!" Thompson aimed his rifle, but the angle was wrong. He couldn't shoot without hitting Hayes. Hayes fought desperately, kicking at the creature's face with his free leg. He managed to connect, and she released him for a moment. He scrambled higher. Then she jumped again, this time catching him around the waist. Her claws sank into his sides, and Hayes screamed as infection entered his bloodstream. "She's injecting something," Morrison yelled. "The claws have venom or a pathogen or—" Hayes's screams turned to choking sounds. His body started convulsing. The transformation was beginning. Sullivan made the hard call. He leaned out from his branch and put 3 rounds into Hayes's head. Mercy kill. Better than becoming a monster. Hayes's body fell to the forest floor. The whistling women immediately converged on it, but not to feed. They were examining, learning, figuring out our tactics. "They can jump," Thompson said, his voice hollow. "Holy shit, they can jump like cats. We're not safe in the trees." As if to prove his point, one of the Wampus Cats backed up about 10 feet, then ran at the tree. She leaped, front claws extended, and grabbed onto the trunk about 8 feet up. Then she climbed, fast, using those claws like ice picks, pulling herself up the trunk toward us. "Open fire!" I yelled. We shot her repeatedly. She fell, hit the ground, and within seconds another one was climbing. Then another. They were testing us, probing our defenses, learning what worked. "We can't stay here," Kowalski said. "If they can climb, we're trapped." "Jump to the next tree," I ordered. We moved through the canopy. It's harder for them to follow if we're moving laterally. We started branch hopping, moving from tree to tree. It was dangerous. One slip meant falling 20 feet onto forest floor surrounded by Wampus Cats. But it was better than staying stationary. The pack followed below us, pacing, whistling that constant melody. And slowly I was starting to understand the whistling. It wasn't just sound, it was communication, coordination. They were using it to direct the pack, to share information, to strategize. They were intelligent. Not animal intelligence, human intelligence or higher. We'd moved maybe 100 meters through the trees when Morrison slipped. He caught a branch with one hand, dangling 25 feet above the forest floor. "Help! I can't! I'm losing grip!" Sullivan and I reached for him, but we were too far away. Morrison's fingers were slipping. The whistling women gathered below him, waiting, patient. Morrison looked up at me. "Chen, tell my wife, tell her—" His hand slipped. He fell. The Wampus Cats were on him instantly, not tearing him apart, holding him down. One of the transformed rangers, Williams I think, drove his claws into Morrison's shoulders. Morrison screamed, then started convulsing, then began to whistle. The transformation was happening faster now. They were perfecting the technique, learning how much venom to inject for quick conversion. 5 rangers left. Chen, Thompson, Sullivan, Kowalski, and I did a head count. Where was Jackson? Kowalski yelled. I'd forgotten about Jackson. He'd been at the perimeter when Martinez ran into the forest. Had he been with us during the retreat? I couldn't remember. The chaos, the darkness, the terror, it all blurred together. Jackson was hit in the first attack, Thompson said quietly. When Patterson went down, I saw him fall. I thought you knew. So Jackson was already gone, killed or transformed. Either way, lost. 5 rangers left. 11 whistling women below us. And they weren't leaving. "We need to keep moving," I said, "toward higher ground. If we can find rocky terrain, they might not be able to follow as easily." We continued through the trees, but we were slowing down. Exhausted. Cold, running on adrenaline that was starting to fade. Around 0300 hours, we couldn't go any further. We'd reached a section of forest where the trees were too far apart to jump between. We had to descend. "Stay together," I ordered. "Weapons ready. We move on the ground until we find another tree line." We climbed down carefully, scanning the darkness for movement. The whistling had stopped. Complete silence in the forest, which was somehow worse than the whistling. "Where are they?" Sullivan whispered. "Close," I said. "They're hunting, waiting for us to make a mistake." We moved in tight formation, back to back, weapons sweeping our sectors. Every shadow looked like a threat. Every branch snap could be them. Thompson was on point. He stepped into a small clearing and immediately froze. "Chen," he said softly, "you need to see this." I moved up beside him. and saw what he was looking at. Bones, human bones, dozens of skeletons scattered across the clearing, some old, weathered by years of exposure, some newer, still showing traces of flesh and clothing. "This is their feeding ground," Kowalski said. "They bring victims here." "Not feeding," Thompson corrected, kneeling by one of the skeletons. "Transforming. Look at the bone structure. The jaw is elongated. The fingers are extended. These people were partially transformed before they died. This is where they bring people who don't survive the change." A sound behind us. Whistling. We spun around. The pack was emerging from the forest. All 11 of them, surrounding the clearing, cutting off every escape route. And leading them was Lieutenant Blake, or what Blake had become. He still wore the tattered remains of his uniform, still moved with military precision. But his face was a nightmare fusion of human and beast, and when he opened his mouth, the whistling that came out was pure predator. "They're corralling us," Sullivan said, "herding us to this clearing. This is where they transform or kill." The Wampus Cats started circling, closing in, moving with coordinated precision that spoke of intelligence and experience. "Kowalski," I said quietly, "you still have those grenades?" "2 frags, 1 flashbang. On my signal, throw the frags at the densest cluster. Then we run through the gap. Flashbang covers our retreat." "That's suicide." "It's the only plan we've got." The Blake creature was getting closer, 20 feet, 15. I could see his eyes now. Still human eyes. Still Blake's eyes, but completely empty of recognition. He didn't know us, didn't remember us. He was a puppet of whatever collective intelligence controlled these things. "Now!" I yelled. Kowalski pulled the pins and threw both grenades into the cluster of whistling women on our eastern flank. We hit the ground, covering our heads. The explosions were massive in the confined clearing. Shrapnel tore through the Wampus Cats and they shrieked, a sound that was nothing like the melodic whistling, but pure animal pain and rage. "Go!" We ran through the smoke and chaos, firing as we went. The flashbang went off behind us, buying precious seconds. We made it maybe 50 meters before Thompson went down. One of the transformed rangers, Martinez, moving with impossible speed, had tackled him from the side. Thompson hit the ground hard, and Martinez's claws were already moving toward his neck. Sullivan fired, point blank into Martinez's head. The former ranger's skull exploded, and he collapsed. But Thompson was already infected. I could see the claw marks on his shoulders, the venom entering his system. "No," Thompson gasped. "No, no, no, I can feel it. It's in my head. They're talking to me. The whistling, it's inside my mind. They're telling me to—" His eyes glazed over. He started humming, that same whistling melody. Sullivan raised his weapon. Thompson looked at him. For just a second, Thompson's eyes cleared. "Do it," he whispered, "before I'm gone. Please." Sullivan pulled the trigger. 3 rangers left. We ran. Didn't stop. Didn't look back. Just ran through the forest while behind us the pack regrouped and gave chase. At 05:30 hours, we saw the first hint of dawn. The sky to the east was beginning to lighten. Not sunrise yet, but the promise of it. And immediately, the whistling stopped. The Wampus Cats had broken off pursuit. I looked back and saw them retreating into the deep forest, avoiding the coming daylight. Mary Littlefeather had been right. They only hunted at night. Daylight made them retreat. We collapsed against trees, gasping for breath, covered in blood and dirt and terror. "We made it," Kowalski said. "We survived the night." 9 rangers didn't, Sullivan said quietly. Martinez, Blake, Williams, Rodriguez, Patterson, Hayes, Morrison, Jackson, Thompson, all dead or transformed in one night. 3 of us left, Chen, Sullivan, and Kowalski, out of 12. The sun was rising over the Great Smoky Mountains. Beautiful, warm, safe. But we knew the truth now. When night fell again, the whistling women would return, and we still had 6 more nights of training in these mountains. Sunrise on September 13th, 2021. 3 rangers sitting against trees in a blood-soaked clearing, watching the sun climb over the Appalachian Mountains, wondering if we'd survive another night. "We need to radio for extraction," Kowalski said. He was shaking. From cold, from adrenaline crash, from the horror of watching 9 men die or transform in one night. "We call command, tell them we have mass casualties, get a helicopter out here by nightfall." I pulled out my radio and tried. "Command, this is Ranger Team Alpha. We have emergency situation, 9 casualties. Repeat, 9 casualties. Request immediate extraction." Static. The mountains blocked our signal. We were too deep in the valley, too far from any relay stations. "We have to move to higher ground," Sullivan said. "Get line of sight to a tower or aircraft." "That could take all day," I said, looking at our tactical map. Nearest high point with possible signal is about 12 miles north, through dense forest. We'd be exposed, moving during the day when we should be finding shelter. "Shelter from what?" Kowalski demanded. "You heard that, woman. They only hunt at night. We've got maybe 13 hours of daylight. We use it to get the hell out of these mountains." "Or we use it to find help," Sullivan suggested. "That Cherokee woman, Mary Littlefeather, she knew about the Wampus Cats. She tried to warn us. Maybe she knows how to fight them, how to survive." I thought about the protection stones she'd given us. I'd put one in my pocket, but never used it. During the chaos and terror of last night, I'd forgotten all about them. "You think she can protect us?" Kowalski asked skeptically. "I think she survived 60 years living near these mountains," I said. "That's more than we've managed in one night. We find her. We learn what she knows. Then we figure out how to get out alive." We started moving east, toward the Cherokee communities on the reservation land bordering the park. According to our map, there was a small settlement about 8 miles away. If we moved fast, we could reach it by early afternoon. As we walked through the forest in daylight, I saw things I'd missed in the darkness. Claw marks on trees. Scratching posts, like what big cats use. Bones scattered in underbrush. Territory markers. These mountains were hunting grounds, and had been for a very long time. Around 1100 hours, we found a hiking trail. Fresh human footprints, civilian footwear. A family, judging by the sizes, 2 adults, 2 children. "Hikers," Sullivan said. "They're out here with no idea what's in these woods." "Should we warn them?" Kowalski asked. "If they're on marked trails in daylight, they're probably fine," I said. "The whistlers only hunt at night. We follow the trail. It'll lead to a trailhead, maybe a ranger station." We followed the footprints for about 2 miles. Then we found what was left of the family. They were scattered across the trail, torn apart, partially eaten. The attack had been recent, maybe within the last few hours, shortly after sunrise. "You said they only hunt at night," Kowalski said, his voice hollow. "That's what Mary said," I replied. "But maybe she was wrong. Or maybe some of them hunt during the day too." Sullivan was examining the bodies. "These wounds are different from what we saw last night. These are feeding wounds. The Wampus Cats last night weren't feeding. They were transforming, converting. This," he gestured at the carnage, "this is predation. Actual hunting for food." "So there are 2 types," I said. The whistling women who transform victims, and regular Wampus Cats who just kill and eat. Or the transformed ones need to feed, Sullivan suggested. Martinez and the others, they were newly converted. Maybe they need meat to complete the transformation, fuel for the change. Whatever the reason, the message was clear. We weren't safe even in daylight. We kept moving, faster now. Every shadow could hide a Wampus Cat. Every sound could be them stalking us. We found the Cherokee settlement at 1400 hours. It wasn't on our military maps, just a small cluster of houses and traditional structures, maybe 30 people total. But one of the houses had smoke coming from the chimney and a familiar figure sitting on the porch, Mary Littlefeather. She stood when she saw us approaching. 3, she said simply, out of 12. Better than I expected. You expected us to die, Kowalski said angrily. You knew what was out there and you let us go in anyway. I gave you warning and protection, Mary said calmly. You chose not to listen. Your commander, the proud lieutenant, he dismissed our knowledge as superstition. Now he's one of them, walking the forest on 4 legs, whistling for prey. He's dead, I said. They're all dead, or transformed. Same thing. Mary shook her head. Not the same. The transformed ones are still alive. Their bodies continue. But their minds are absorbed, incorporated into the collective. The Wampus Cats are old. So old. They remember when these mountains were different. When humans were new. They're part of the land itself. She gestured for us to come inside. We followed her into a small house filled with Cherokee artifacts, animal pelts, dried herbs, and carved symbols similar to the protection stones. Sit, she commanded. I'll make tea. You'll eat. Then I'll tell you what you need to know to survive. We sat. We ate. We drank tea that tasted like earth and smoke and bitter roots. And Mary talked. The Wampus Cat is Cherokee legend, she began. But like all legends, it's based in truth. Thousands of years ago, there was a woman of our people. Her husband was a hunter. One night he went to a secret ceremony, forbidden to women. She followed him, wearing the pelt of a mountain lion to disguise herself. She witnessed sacred mysteries she should not have seen. As punishment, the spirits fused the pelt to her body. Permanently. She became the first Wampus Cat, half woman, half beast, cursed to walk on 4 legs, cursed to hunt her own kind. That's a myth, Kowalski said. Is it? Mary asked. You've seen them. Are they myth? Kowalski didn't answer. The curse spread. Metes, Mary continued. The woman infected others with her bite. Created more Wampus Cats. They bred, multiplied, became a pack. For centuries they hunted these mountains. My people learned to coexist. We gave them territory, stayed out of the deep woods at night, carried protection charms, made offerings. In return, they left our villages alone. But every 20 years the hunting intensifies, I said, remembering what she'd told us before. Why? Breeding cycle, Mary said. Every 20 years they need new blood. Fresh humans to transform. To add to the pack. To prevent inbreeding. Genetic diversity. They're intelligent enough to understand that. So every 2 decades they hunt aggressively, taking hikers, campers, anyone foolish enough to be in their territory during the season. 2001, Sullivan said. You mentioned hikers that year. 12 went in, 3 came out. 9 were taken, Mary confirmed. Transformed. They're still out there, part of the pack now. You probably killed 1 or 2 last night without knowing they used to be human. The thought made me sick. The Wampus Cats we'd shot, the ones we'd blown apart with grenades, those might have been people once. Hikers, campers, maybe even other soldiers from previous training exercises. How do we kill them? I asked. Bullets didn't work. Grenades barely slowed them down. You can't kill them, Mary said simply. Not with conventional weapons. The transformation makes them resilient. Healing factor, distributed nervous system. You can destroy the body, but the consciousness lives on in the pack. They're connected. What one knows, they all know. What one sees, they all see. So we're supposed to just run? Kowalski demanded. Let them hunt us until they transform or kill all of us. Mary pulled out a leather pouch, similar to the one she'd shown us before, and dumped the contents on the table. Carved stones, dried herbs, small bones, and a knife. Not steel, obsidian, black volcanic glass worked into a sharp blade. There is one way, she said. Cherokee way. You fight them in the old manner, with sacred weapons, with protection prayers, and you must destroy the Alpha. The Alpha? Sullivan asked. Every pack has a leader. The oldest, the strongest, the one who controls the collective. Kill the Alpha, the pack loses cohesion, becomes disorganized, easier to escape. But the Alpha is also the hardest to kill. She's been alive for hundreds of years. She's survived everything our people threw at her. How do we find her? I asked. She'll find you, Mary said. Tonight, when they hunt again, she'll be with them. You'll know her when you see her. Bigger than the others, older, moving with authority. She'll stay back, directing the pack. That's when you strike. Get close. Use this. She handed me the obsidian blade. Carved from sacred stone. Blessed with old prayers, it can cut what bullets cannot. I took the knife. It was surprisingly heavy, well balanced. The blade glinted in the light filtering through the windows. There are 3 of you, Mary said. Good. 3 is a sacred number. 3 can form a triangle. Protection formation. You stay together, you survive. You separate. She shook her head. Don't separate. We stayed at Mary's house until dusk, resting, eating, preparing. She gave us more protection stones. Keep one in your mouth while they're hunting, she instructed. It dampens their telepathic call, helps you resist the whistling. As the sun began to set, Mary walked us to the edge of the settlement. Follow the ridgeline north, she said. You'll reach a rocky outcrop about 2 miles from here. Defensible position. High ground. They'll have to come uphill to get you. Make your stand there. What if we run instead? Kowalski asked. Just keep moving all night. Don't fight them. They're faster than you. They know these mountains. They'll catch you on the move. Better to choose your battlefield. Mary looked at me. Remember, the Alpha stays back. When you see an opening, you take it. 1 strike. Make it count. We thanked her and started moving toward the ridgeline. Behind us, the sun disappeared below the horizon. Darkness fell over the Great Smoky Mountains, and from somewhere in the forest the whistling began. We reached the rocky outcrop at 2000 hours and established defensive positions. The outcrop gave us about 30 feet of elevation advantage. Rocky terrain that would slow down any attackers. Clear sight lines in multiple directions. This is good, Sullivan said. We hold here. They want us. They have to come uphill. We put the protection stones in our mouths. The taste was horrible, bitter herbs and mineral. But the moment the stone touched my tongue, the mental pressure from the whistling eased. I could still hear it, but it didn't pull at me the same way. They appeared at the base of the outcrop around 210 hours. All 11 of them. The transformed rangers mixed with the original whistling women, moving in pack formation, and behind them, hanging back in the shadows, was the Alpha. She was massive, easily 8 feet tall when standing upright. Her fur was silver gray, marked with scars from centuries of battles. Her eyes glowed amber instead of the green of her pack members. And when she whistled, the others echoed her, following her commands. "That's her," I whispered. "That's the Alpha." The pack started climbing. We opened fire, picking our shots, aiming for heads and center mass. The Wampus Cats went down, but they didn't stay down. They'd get back up, wounded but functioning, healing as they climbed. "We can't kill them all," Kowalski said, reloading. "We're just wasting ammunition." "We don't need to kill them all," I said. "Just hold them off long enough to get to the Alpha." But the Alpha wasn't moving closer. She was smart. She directed her pack from safety, using them as shields and weapons. We fought for an hour, maybe 2. Time lost meaning. It was just shooting, reloading, shooting again. The pack kept coming. We kept pushing them back. Then Kowalski's rifle jammed. He was fumbling with the magazine release when one of the transformed rangers, Blake, moving with terrible speed, reached him. "Kowalski!" Sullivan yelled. Blake's claws raked across Kowalski's arms. The infection entered his bloodstream. Sullivan shot Blake 3 times in the head. The lieutenant's transformed body collapsed. But Kowalski was already changing. His eyes were glazing. He started humming the whistling melody. "Chen," he said, his voice distant. "Chen, I can feel them. They're in my mind. They're beautiful. The pack, the unity. No more fear, no more pain, just us, always us." Sullivan raised his weapon. "Wait," I said. "The stone. Put the protection stone in his mouth. Maybe it'll break the connection." I grabbed one of Mary's protection stones and shoved it between Kowalski's teeth. For a moment, just a moment, his eyes cleared. "Kill me," he whispered. "It's fighting the connection, but it won't hold. I can feel myself disappearing, please, while I'm still me." Sullivan pulled the trigger. Kowalski fell. The last of our team gone. 2 rangers left, facing 11 Wampus Cats and an Alpha who wouldn't come within striking distance, and we were almost out of ammunition. 2 rangers, 11 Wampus Cats, 1 Alpha, and maybe 20 minutes of ammunition left. Sullivan and I stood back to back on the rocky outcrop, surrounded by creatures that had once been our teammates and friends. The Alpha watched from the shadows below, directing her pack with whistled commands. "We can't win this fight," Sullivan said, reloading his last magazine. "We're outgunned, outnumbered, and they're not dying." "What's the plan, Chen?" I looked at the obsidian blade Mary had given me, then at the Alpha, then back at Sullivan. "The Alpha won't come to us," I said. "So we have to go to her. One of us creates a distraction. The other gets close and uses the knife." "That's a suicide plan. You got a better one?" Sullivan was quiet for a moment. Then, "I'll be the distraction. You're faster. Better with a blade. You've got the best chance of actually reaching her." "Sullivan, that's the plan, Chen. I draw the pack away. You wait for your opening. You kill that thing. Then you survive. You get out of these mountains and you tell our story. Make sure people know what happened to us, to all of them." He ejected his magazine, checked the round count, slammed it back in. 18 rounds left, enough to cause chaos, enough to buy you time. "We could both run," I said. "Forget the Alpha. Just survive until dawn." "And then what?" "They hunt again tomorrow night and the night after, for the next 6 days until our training window ends. We're scheduled to be out here for a week, remember? We don't kill the Alpha now, we're dead anyway. At least this way we go down fighting." He was right. I hated it, but he was right. "On 3, Sullivan said. I break left, down the slope. You wait until the pack follows me, then you move. Fast and quiet. Get to the Alpha. 1 strike, center mass or throat. Make it count. I gripped the obsidian blade, put a fresh protection stone in my mouth, and nodded. It's been an honor serving with you, Chen. Likewise, Sullivan. 3, 2, 1. Sullivan vaulted over the rocks and charged down the slope, firing as he went. The Wampus Cats immediately shifted their attention, the pack instinct kicking in. They gave chase, whistling, coordinating, moving as one organism. The Alpha stayed in position, watching her pack hunt. Confident, comfortable. That was her mistake. I moved laterally along the ridge, keeping to shadows, using rocks for cover. The protection stone in my mouth was dampening the telepathic influence, making me harder for the pack to sense. I was essentially invisible to their collective awareness. I circled around, coming at the Alpha from her blind side. She was focused on Sullivan's running battle with the pack, watching her strategy play out. 50 feet, 40, 30. She sensed me at 20 feet. Her head snapped around, amber eyes locking onto mine. She opened her mouth to whistle a warning. I threw my knife, not the obsidian blade. A regular combat knife from my vest, a distraction. The Alpha dodged easily, but the movement put her off balance for a split second. That's all I needed. I closed the distance in a sprint and drove the obsidian blade up under her ribcage, angling toward her heart. The blade sank in deeper than any normal knife should. The sacred stone cut through tissue and bone like they were water. I felt it pierce something vital. The Alpha screamed, not a whistle. A scream, rage and pain and shock that something had actually hurt her after centuries of being untouchable. She backhanded me. The blow sent me flying 15 feet. I hit a tree hard enough to crack ribs. The world spun, but the blade was still in her chest. She clawed at it, trying to pull it out. But touching the obsidian burned her. She shrieked again, and this time the pack responded. The whistling stopped. The coordinated hunting broke down into chaos. The Wampus Cats turned, confused, directionless. Their Alpha was wounded. Their collective mind was fracturing. Sullivan saw his opportunity. He lobbed his last grenade into the cluster of confused pack members and ran for the outcrop. The explosion scattered them further. They weren't retreating, they were lost, running in random directions, some attacking each other. The hive mind was broken. The Alpha fell to her knees, still clawing at the blade. Black blood poured from the wound. She looked at me with those ancient amber eyes, and for a moment I saw rage, then fear, then resignation. She'd been alive for hundreds of years. She'd survived everything the Cherokee had thrown at her, but she couldn't survive sacred obsidian blessed with old prayers. She collapsed. Her breathing became labored, irregular, and then she died. The moment she stopped breathing, the pack went completely berserk. They started fighting among themselves, attacking each other. The collective that had bound them together was gone, and what was left were just confused, terrified creatures who didn't know what they were anymore. Sullivan grabbed me and pulled me to my feet. "Move while they're distracted!" We ran, down the slope, through the chaos of the pack's breakdown, into the forest beyond. Behind us, the Wampus Cats were tearing each other apart. Without the Alpha's control, without the hive mind to direct them, they'd become feral, dangerous but disorganized. We ran until we couldn't hear them anymore, ran until our lungs burned and our legs gave out, ran until the first light of dawn began to appear on the eastern horizon. September 14th, 2021. Sunrise. We'd survived another night. We made it back to Mary's village by mid-morning. She took one look at us, covered in blood, barely able to stand, traumatized beyond measure, and nodded. "You killed her," Mary said. "The Alpha, I can feel it. The forest is different, quieter. What happens to the pack now? I asked. Without the alpha, they scatter. Some will die fighting each other. Some will retreat deep into the mountains and become solitary hunters. Some, she paused, some might regain a measure of their humanity. The connection to the collective is what fully completes the transformation. Without it, the newly turned sometimes remember. I thought about Martinez, Blake, all the others who'd been transformed. They might come back. Some, changed, but aware. Most will die. The transformation is traumatic. Without the pack to sustain them, Mary shook her head. It's better if they die. Better than existing as half-human monsters. Mary called for military extraction on a satellite phone. A rescue helicopter arrived 3 hours later. The debriefing was immediate and intense. Where were the other 10 Rangers? What happened to them? Why were only 2 of us alive? I told them the truth. Bears. We were attacked by bears. Multiple bears. Unusual, aggressive behavior. The team was scattered in the night. We lost contact. By the time Sullivan and I regrouped, everyone else was gone. The investigators clearly didn't believe us. Bears don't hunt in packs. Bears don't coordinate attacks. The story had holes big enough to drive a truck through. But the alternative, that we'd been hunted by Cherokee shapeshifters who transform humans into monsters, was even less believable. After a week of interviews and investigations, the official story was finalized. Training accident, bear attack, 10 Rangers killed, 2 survivors, tragic loss for the 75th Regiment. The bodies were never recovered. Too dangerous to mount a recovery operation, they said. The bears are still active in that area. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park closed that section of forest to all public access. Wildlife management concerns, the official announcement read. Unusually aggressive bear population. Armed park rangers now patrol the boundaries, turning back hikers who get too close, enforcing the closure. The Cherokee reservation warned their people to stay out of the deep woods, but they'd been doing that for thousands of years anyway. Sullivan and I were given medical discharges, PTSD, survivor's guilt, inability to continue active duty. We both accepted. Neither of us could handle being underground or in enclosed spaces anymore. The Rangers were our life, but that life was over. Sullivan moved to Alaska, as far from the Appalachian Mountains as he could get while staying in the United States. We talk sometimes. Not often. It's too hard. Every conversation brings back the memories. I stayed closer to the Smokies. Settled in Asheville, North Carolina. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to. Someone has to watch. Someone has to remember. Someone has to warn the next group who thinks they can ignore Cherokee wisdom. It's been 3 years since Operation Smoky Mountain. 3 years since I watched 11 men die or transform. 3 years since I killed an ancient alpha with a sacred blade. Mary Littlefeather died last winter. Natural causes. She was 73 years old. At her funeral, her granddaughter approached me. "You're the ranger," she said, "the one who killed the old one." I nodded. "Grandmother wanted you to know something," the granddaughter said. She handed me a leather pouch. Inside were protection stones, dozens of them. The next hunting season is in 2041, 20 years from the last one. Grandmother said you'll need to remember, to warn people, to prepare. "The pack is broken," I said. "The alpha is dead." "One alpha is dead," she corrected. "But Wampus Cats live for centuries. There are older ones in the deep mountains. They'll breed, they'll rebuild, and in 2041 they'll hunt again." She walked away, leaving me with the pouch of stones and the weight of terrible knowledge. I'm writing this in 2024. 17 years until the next hunting season. 17 years to prepare, to warn, to make sure what happened to us doesn't happen to others. The official story says it was bears, says it was a training accident, says the forest is closed for wildlife management. But I know the truth. Sullivan knows the truth. The Cherokee people know the truth. There are things in the Appalachian Mountains that predate human civilization. Things that remember when the continents had different shapes. Things that hunt on 4 legs and whistle like women calling for help. The Wampus Cats are real. The transformation is real. The hunting cycle is real. And in 2041, they'll hunt again. I've tried to tell people. Posted warnings online. Sent letters to National Park Service. Contacted wildlife organizations. Most ignore me. Some call me crazy. PTSD-addled veteran seeing monsters where there are only bears. But a few listen. A few believe. A few take the protection stones and keep them safe. If you're reading this in 2041, or any time after, understand this. Don't enter the deep woods of the Great Smoky Mountains at night during the months of September and October. Don't ignore Cherokee warnings. Don't dismiss local folklore as superstition. If you hear whistling that sounds like a woman calling for help, don't answer. Don't investigate. Put a protection stone in your mouth if you have one. If you don't, run. Run until daylight. Don't stop. The whistling women are patient. They're intelligent. They're predators that have perfected their hunting technique over thousands of years. They use our compassion against us. They use our voices, our faces, our friends and family, transformed into weapons. 10 Army Rangers went into those mountains and never came back. At least, not as themselves. Some are still out there, wandering the deep forest on 4 legs, whistling for prey, waiting for 2041 when the breeding cycle begins again. Martinez, Blake, Williams, Rodriguez, Patterson, Hayes, Morrison, Jackson, Thompson, Kowalski. I remember all their names. I remember their faces before the transformation. And sometimes, in nightmares, I see what they became after. Sullivan and I survived because we listened, because we learned, because we killed the alpha and broke the pack. But the forest is vast. The mountains go deep, and there are more Wampus Cats out there, building new packs, waiting for their season to hunt. In 2041, stay out of the Appalachian forests, or you might hear the whistling, and once you hear it, you'll never stop.